Welcome back, everybody, to Pure Picks. We're back with the Pure Pickers ourselves. We got Alex, got Kevin on the line right here, and yeah, we're about to break down Dawson versus Green. This is something that I personally circled on the calendar for a long time, so I'm excited to just really get this bread. Um, as far as a recap from 2 weeks ago, yeah, it's pretty damn brutal in my opinion. A lot of buses, everywhere, but we don't hide from our losses. So we gotta say that we took that L, all of us. The last the only one that actually won a unit was Gerard, who's not here, but he'll join us on best bets. So yeah, it's all about kind of moving forward and rocking from there. You guys have any thoughts about the last event recap before we head on and move forward?
Uh, it was one of those cards that it was pretty hard to predict. I'd say luck had to play a decent factor in the performance. Um, just a lot of unexpected things happened. Uh, back of the head shot DQ. You know, uh, Fiziev getting his leg broken. These are just very unexpected events. But overall, aside from those, I think we probably could have, you know, just went with a very simple strategy of just putting one unit on each underdog, and we would have performed quite well.
Yeah, it was a tough card to predict for sure. A lot of underdogs won. Um, yeah, I think for those type of cards, it's best to play it safe. So I mean, we all learned our lessons, and that's what it's all about, just to get better. So
Definitely. And this is it's a higher variance game, right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens that sometimes are out of our control, to be honest. Like, who would have thought that Fizai would have tore up his knee or broke his knee on that on that kick that, Gamrot checked or the ref would have DQ'd Malkoon for that. So I mean, there's just some crazy stuff that happens, but hey, we gotta roll with it. That's what makes it fun as far as this game. Without further ado, let's just hop into the next event because that's the cool thing about MMA and specifically UFC. Always the event down the line next week. So this week we got Dawson versus Grant. So Dawson versus Green. First fight we have is Montana De La Rosa versus JJ Aldrich. Montana De La Rosa, she's 12-8. She is 1-3-1 in her last five. She's going up against JJ Aldridge, 12-6, 3-2 in her last five. This will be a fight as far as the flyweight division for the girls. Um, just to give you guys a little bit of odds right here. For the odds, we have Montana De La Rosa. She actually opened up at plus 170. She has now been bet to minus 135. So a lot of people love those dog odds and push her to a slight favorite here. Um, when I broke down this fight initially, God, I just remember JJ Aldridge. She's a good, decent all around fighter, but she does have a history of providing duds in a way. I think the last time that I remember her providing a really big dud was when she lost against Lipsky. I think she was a big favorite in that fight, and she looked absolutely flat in that fight and got smoked for all three rounds when I saw it. It was like easy 30-27. She is coming off a good KO. I think she's going to be probably the better striker in this matchup on offense and defense. She has better striking differentials, better striking percentages on both offense and defense. She can get taken down, and I think that that's probably going to come to play against Montana De La Rosa. I mean, Montana, she's a slightly bigger girl in this matchup. I think she's the much better grappler. And the thing that I do like about Montana is that she sticks to her game plan, right? Even though her game plan is really straightforward, it's a she tries to set up her takedowns with her improving but not great striking game, but it is improving. She has persistent strike takedown pressure, and honestly, if you look at her losses, I mean, it's good quality losses, right? I mean, I don't think she's lost to any cantons or bums. I mean, she lost to Tatiana Suarez. lost to Macy Barber, Mayra Buena Silva. I mean, Vivi Rujo. Those are some pretty decent losses. Not bad. Um, if I had were to pick a fight, I mean, I would probably go Montana De La Rosa, but I think after the last event, as far as the first fight of the last event was what Vidal versus Monsterrett, right? Rendon Monsterrett, and man, that one kind of just reminded me to hey, let's maybe just stay away from these chicks. I mean, I don't know if I can like predict how they do. So my pick is Montana De La Rosa, but I'm staying away from this. Not putting down any money on this. Alex, what are your thoughts on this first fight that we have here?
Yeah, so when I broke down the tape, what I kind of saw was that at least for JJ, JJ Aldrich, I do think that she's the better striker in this matchup. But she also does really like to wrestle. She likes to wrestle, but she doesn't really shoot any dynamic takedowns. She's kind of slow in her approach overall. Whereas Montana, she also likes to fight in the clinch, and her striking it is worse. She has a very I'd say slow striking kind of in terms of like the speed. And I do think she's overall like a pretty slow fighter. But I think Montana's a very huge flyweight. At least compared to JJ Aldrich, she looks way bigger than her. And so like for this fight specifically, I like Montana purely because she's a bigger flyweight than JJ. And I feel like that extra mass is going to be beneficial in the clinch, which is where I think this fight is going to take place. Because again, JJ, although she is a better striker, she also really likes to wrestle as well. So um, in terms of like wrestling, I favor Montana just because she's bigger, and I feel like she'll be able to absorb more damage and be able to kind of use her extra weight and lean on her. So I like Montana here as my pick, but still not decided on a bet. But I like Montana here.
Yep, totally agree. Kevin, what are your thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah. So looking at the fighter histories, I think Montana's faced a lot better opponents, tougher opponents. She's also a little bit younger, bigger, um, more physical than JJ. She's got a couple finishes under her belt. Um, I think I'm gonna go with Montana here. I'm actually pretty confident on this one. JJ's coming off of a pretty big win, or like a spectacular finish of her last opponent, um, whom was a lot smaller than her. Now she has to face someone a lot bigger with a lot a lot more experience and wins in the UFC. So I think she's going to be going from an easy fight to a much harder fight, and I don't think she's going to perform that well. Um, on top of that, the odds also started with JJ as a favorite, and now they've moved to Montana being the favorite.
Definitely,
So
yeah,
yeah, I'm Montana.
definitely, yeah. And when the odds flip like that, usually there's a reason for that, right? A lot of people are pushing that money, so to be able to move a line like that means you're probably on the right side of the money flow in that case.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Perfect,
confident
perfect.
on this.
Yep, sounds good. All right, let's move on to the next fight that we have here. We have Nate Maness versus Mateus Mendonca. This is going to be another, I believe, flyweight fight, just on the men's side for this one. Oh, badminton, sorry. Is it badminton or flyweight? Let's check. It's
Flyweight.
flyweight, yeah, okay, flyweight, got it.
Yeah.
So for this fight, we have Nate Maness. He is, as far as a pretty big flyweight in my opinion. He's 14-3, 3-2 in his last five. He's going to fight against Mateus Mendonca, 10-1, 4-1 his last five. I think he's coming off that loss against Javid Basharat. Um, Mateus is going to be the younger fighter. He's 24 years old. Nate's going to be 32 years old. Just as far as the odds here, it's really, really wide in my opinion. Mateus, he actually opened up at -110, and now he's about -258 or so. So a lot of people turn him to from a near pick'em to a 2-1 favorite there. Just looking at the striking differentials, I mean, very strange. Nate, he really takes a lot of damage, it looks like. I mean, he throws two strikes per 15 minutes per minute, and then he absorbs 4.65. So it takes a lot of hits, but doesn't really dish out that much. When I broke him down, I think that he seems like he's more of a primarily a grappler, in my opinion. He does have a good long frame for the division. He only has a 1 inch length advantage though, so it's not too much of a disadvantage there for Mateus. Um, I think that Nate does have some durability issues. He can't get controlled on the ground. I think his last two fights, I mean, he just got subbed in round one from one takedown. He got pretty much controlled the whole fight by Umar just off of three takedowns. He does have some, solid finishing power. He did have two finishes before that, but in this fight, I think, going against a shoot box guy um, in Mateus, I mean, I think that's a recipe for disaster for Nate. I think that his durability issues will come into play in this one because Mateus, I mean, he does have solid striking and grappling. He does have an aggressive style. I think that style was horrible to do against a guy like Javid Basharat, right? But against a guy like Nate, I mean, I think that he's going to have a little bit more success here. He does have a sus gas tank, in my opinion. Like after round one, it didn't really look like he did too much damage or maybe little damage against Javid. So I hope that probably won't come into play here. The pick is going to be Mendonca, but once again, I think it's a no play for me. I don't really have confidence in either side because I can't see either side exposing the other's weaknesses. And I don't know if I can trust Mateus as a 2-1 favorite here. So the pick is Mateus, but I think a no play for me. Kevin, what were your thoughts on this fight here?
I think Nate had some decent success at bantamweight previously, but I don't think he's had much success in the flyweight division so far. So previously he's had some pretty good wins in the bantamweight division against, Johnny Munoz, Tony Gravely, but I I don't see him doing very well in this division, unfortunately. Um, he seems like a guy that kind of knows what he's doing, but he's also, I think, he might be a little bit too tall for this division, which might take away his strength advantage. And I think that might come into play when he's fighting a young fighter, in Mateus, who's probably just going to rush him. And I think it's going to end up in a pretty short fight, to be honest with you. So yeah, I'm going Mateus, possibly by finish.
Do you feel confident in him being a potential parlay piece?
Not really. Um, I mean, I think it's really up in the air. Honestly, I wouldn't put him in any rocket parlays, but maybe in a couple of parlays where you put like maybe like Drew Dober and Dawson
Mm,
together. Get a couple 3-4 man parlays going in there, but I wouldn't put him in any crazy ones.
got it. Okay.
Not saying that I haven't. I'm just saying not financial advice.
NFA, NFA. All right, Alex, so what are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, so when I broke down this fight, I thought Nate Maness was pretty solid on the feet. I felt like he hits pretty hard. He'll utilize jabs, looping shots. What I didn't like though was I feel like he folds under pressure. He got taken down easily by Tagir, and then against Umar, he it kind of felt like he just gave up. Fighting. He just let Umar have top control essentially, and he was just pulling guard the entire fight. Um, but I will say that Mateus, he's moving down a weight class. Like he's naturally a bantamweight. So that'll be interesting to kind of see that. But when I was looking at Mateus, he's very wild with his striking. A lot of energy is spent. Um, throwing, the punches that he likes to throw. It's like kind of uneconomical, as the commentators said. But one thing about Mateus is, he is a shoot the box fighter, so he's gonna come with that pressure. So in terms of a bet, like I wouldn't mind a Mateus round one finish. I can see a KO or a submission. Just because Mateus in his fight against uh Javid Basharat, he was shooting for takedowns. So I definitely don't mind a round one play here. But the fear is that Nate will kind of weather that storm, and then in rounds two and rounds three, he might take over. Especially because Mateus, his gas tank, is kind of suspect, especially if he's moving down a weight class. So my pick here is Mateus. Um, but in terms of a bet, I'm not sure quite yet. But I do like Mateus here. I think his pressure is going to be too much for Nate, who I think is going to fold under that pressure.
Yeah, no, I agree with that analysis. Just for the FYI, round one for Mendonca here, plus 240. So not too bad of a price right there. But yeah, I mean, I do understand if he does go past round one, I mean, he does have a sus gas tank, and that could lead to a lot of problems because Nate is a vet. So yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, we'll go on to the next fight here. We have Kanako Murata, I think coming off a 2 year layoff. She's going to fight against Vanessa Demopoulos. This is going to be in, I believe, the 115 division, so strawweight division here. Kanako, she's actually 4-1 in her last five, 12-2 overall. From Japan, 30 years old. She's fighting against Vanessa Demopoulos, aka Little Monster, aka Vanessa OnlyFans, as I like to call her. She's 9-5, 3-2 in her last five. She's actually the older fighter here. She's 35 years old. Both of them have about the same reach and height here. I think maybe like 1 or 2 inches each way off. Um, just looking at their stats here, I mean, they're both pretty similar in terms of the stats. I think that both of them absorb a lot of strikes. Both of them land a lot of strikes as well, but they both absorb more strikes than they land. Uh, there is a difference in terms of the skill set, though. I think that when I do watch Murata, I mean, I think that she does have more accuracy in her shots. I think her defense is a little bit tighter. Vanessa seems like she just tries to go for the volume route and tries to, kind of constantly push out strikes. Um, I think a 2 year layoff. I mean, she is a wrestler grappler as far as Murata. I think that she's a really good credentialed wrestler in that case. She's coming off that broken arm doctor stoppage against Verna. Um, but I think that she does have good cardio, good pace, good movement. Vanessa looked really flat her last fight, but it was against Karolina Kowalkiewicz, very true and tried vet with skills. Um, but I did like that Vanessa showed good durability. I don't think that she's a quitter. She could lose and get out wrestled for 15 minutes. That's very much in play here, and that's why the odds are kind of like that. I mean, right now, um, Kanako is minus 360. and she opened up at a minus 230. So people are already kind of shoving her and kind of giving Vanessa, I don't think, little to no chance in this fight. Um, for me, I mean, I think that the most likely path is that Murata out wrestles Vanessa for 15 minutes and she's going to survive Vanessa. But I think that Murata by decision is probably the way to go here. But I'm probably not going to play this fight. I mean, 2 years off, um, coming off a broken arm. I mean, I don't know what she's going to look like. She could look worse. She could look better. I think there's a lot of volatility in these kind of odds, but the pick here is Murata. But once again, I think it's just a no play for me in this fight once again. Alex, what are your thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah, so um this one's this one's tough because the odds are so wide. Breaking down the tape, Murata's definitely going to wrestle in this matchup. There's no question. That's kind of like her bread and butter. She'll kind of like throw a 1-2, then shoot for a takedown that'll push the opponent to the cage. That's kind of like what she does. And then she'll kind of use her judo to get the takedown. Um, but she is very hittable. When she goes in for those 1-2s and takedowns, she will get hit. Um, and she's usually like the pressure fighter. She'll kind of like move forward. Um, and then when I'm looking at Demopoulos, she showed up overweight in her last fight. Um, she actually looks very big for a strawweight. So like in my head too, I'm thinking, can Murata take her down? Like, is that because Vanessa's like very huge, um, and Vanessa also has like solid enough punches and combinations. But again, Vanessa is also very hittable. Um, so I think, similar to you, James, I feel like Murata is probably going to win, but I think the odds are like too wide that I probably don't want to play it. 2 year layoff, all those factors. Yeah, I think the odds are just too wide. So I'm probably going to stay away from this one.
Yeah, definitely. Kevin, what were your thoughts on this fight here?
So Vanessa's the OnlyFans chick, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, okay. I mean, she has more experience in the UFC. She's got what, 5 fights in the UFC?
Mhm.
Yeah, 5 fights in the UFC, 3 for 2, but her opponents that she's faced aren't very good, I'd say. Except for Karolina. Karolina was pretty decent. Um, yeah, this doesn't look like that great of a fight. Um, it might be worth putting in some, a little bit of a parlay just to hedge your bets a little bit. If you want to, do like a Vanessa Grant and Drew Dober type parlay. But um, yeah, I think I'm gonna give it to the Japanese girl just because she's got like first round finishes and she seems like a finisher, and she also looks a lot more muscular. She's kind of got those like John Wei Lee vibes, but probably not as skilled. um yeah, but I think, I think these Japanese fighters are smart enough to know when to come back. They're probably a little bit more humble about that kind of stuff. Um, you know, deciding when to take a fight after, getting screwed up previously. So, yeah, I'd go for the Japanese girl, but yeah, it just seems like a pretty risky bet to throw on your parlays because the juice might not be worth the squeeze.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Um, all right, let's just move on to the next fight. We have Johnny Munoz Jr. versus I feel like I'm gonna butcher this, but Aoriqileng. Is that how you say it? Aoriqileng? I
Yeah,
never,
I
I
think
never know how to say these guys' names, these Mongolian guys. I mean, is it like the one name or is it two separate names? Like, I feel like they combined it. Oh yeah, Aoriqileng. So Johnny Munoz Jr. He's God, I think I remember this guy. He's the butt scooter who butt scooted his way to an L. His last loss, 12-3, uh, 2-3 in his last five. 30 years old. He's facing the Mongolian Murder. I like that name a little better. 24-11, so last a wealth of experience in MMA. 2-3 in his last five, and once again, he's from China and fighting out of Mongolia there. So both of them are also 30 years old. Johnny Munoz Jr. is going to be the slightly bigger fighter here. He has a 2-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage there. Um, this fight is, I think, it's going to be a hilarious fight. I mean, it's a pick 'em for a reason here. I think that, the bookmakers and bettors, I think, I don't know if people are going to know which way this is going to go. I think it could go a lot of different ways depending on how the fight plays out. I mean, Johnny Munoz Jr., BJJ nerd. I mean, like I mentioned, Bud scooted his way to an L in his last fight. To me, he looks like a sub or bust kind of fighter, and like the bad kind of sub or bust, where he's going to try to constantly just pull guard to get you down on the ground, or he's going to try to pull guard and get you into grappling exchanges. And I don't really like those kind of fighters, anybody who does those kind of things, because it's not good for the optics, right? When the judges are watching that, they're like, man, just looking at a guy like scooting his ass across the cage, or like trying to pull himself to the other guy trying to nut hug him, like the judges don't want to give points for that. So it's kind of bad because, I mean, when I do watch him, I feel like Johnny Munoz does have some decent power. Like, he's not all bad. He does have decent takedowns, but I think he just tries to follow that game plan of trying to be a BJJ nerd and just keeps on going for that. And I don't know if that's a good game plan here. I mean, he's fighting against a pretty well-rounded fighter, in my opinion. Good pressure and pace. He is coming off of that KO loss against the Hobby, where he just got caught and got knocked out. But I think that he's well-rounded enough where he uses his striking to set up takedowns, good volume. The one thing about him is that he can get out grappled from what I saw. And like, especially that Cody Durden fight, I mean, that was not a good look for him. I feel like Cody Durden just like manhandled his way to the decision win, and I feel like I feel like it could be the case here again. I mean, if Johnny Munoz can actually implement his takedown game and get the Mongolian Murder down, I think that he can out grapple him for a decision victory, or maybe even a sub. So I mean, it's a pick 'em fight for a reason. I think that I don't really see much value either way, honestly. I mean, they both kind of, I think it even opened up as a pick 'em, and it hasn't really even moved since. So for me, I would say low confidence, Aoriqileng, but I mean, I would say no play for me. I'm not going to put any of these guys in any money parlays or anything. I think I'm good on both these guys right here. Kevin, what do you think about this fight right here?
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one because Aoriqileng has been submitted before. I feel like Aoriqileng, he's got the better ground stand up game for sure.
Mhm.
But he might be physically weaker than Johnny Munoz and also worse of a grappler, which is my concern. But I do think that he probably learned from his last fight, to kind of be a little bit more calculated and meticulous. So I think he's going to probably come into this fight, more careful, more strategic, not trying to go for the knockout. So I think, you know, um, a Lang by decision might be a decent one. Um, if he's able to, he's got, decent takedown defense, 56% takedown defense. If he can keep it on the feet and, you know, put some damage on Johnny, then he might do a decision win. I'm not sure, or get a knockout potentially if he's able to like put enough damage on him. But I kind of like the under on this one, under 2.5. But yeah, I'm gonna go low confidence Aoriqileng.
Yep, yeah, I mean, total agreement. Alex, what were your thoughts on this great fight here?
Yeah, I mean this one's tough to predict. Um, I think a lot of what both of you guys said holds pretty true. I think Arichi Lang definitely has the better stand-up game. Um, but like he is hittable. Like he got knocked out in the first round again by Sahabi. Um, Munoz, BJJ nerd, like you said, he likes to wrestle. When he was in his stand-up game, he looked decent striking. But what I will point out was that his last fight was against Daniel Santos, shoot the box guy. And he Daniel Santos is definitely a way more dynamic striker than Arichi Lang. Um, and he was able to last all 15 minutes in that fight. But again, you don't want to make that just because someone uh was able to, last 15 minutes against like a better striker doesn't mean that you won't get knocked out against, someone that's worse. So that's kind of a lesson that I've learned. Um so, in terms of a pick, I think I'm going Johnny Munoz Jr., but it's a fight that I'm probably staying away from, just because I don't know how it's gonna play out, personally.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you guys. I mean, so far, what we've gone through one, two, three, four, gone through four fights. For me personally, I haven't even said anything's like a play for me yet. So I think that, this game is about picking your spots. You don't have to play every fight, right? Obviously, I mean, it's fun to like maybe like live bet, maybe like get a play here and there, but I don't know, man. If you don't feel confident about it, you don't have to play it. Just like move on to the next fight. There's always other fights to kind of put your money down. So, yeah, I agree so far. All right. So let's just go on to the next fight. And this is going to actually be a shuffled fight because we have, I believe, a pullout from Montel Jackson. Was that his name, right? Or
Yep.
yeah, Montel Jackson. I think he pulled out against Chris Gutierrez. So the person that stepped in, and this is going to be another Mongolian guy. I'm trying to say it's Alatengheili. Is that how you guys say it? Alatengheili. I think he's stepping in for Montel Jackson here, and he's once again another Mongolian guy. I don't see the odds posted on Bet Online. Let me check if it came out yet. Yeah, the odds haven't even been posted yet, so it's a brand new kind of fight. But just to kind of break down Chris Gutierrez first, he's a pretty good kickboxer. Solid cardio, pace, great leg kicks. He's coming off that L against Pedro Munoz. I mean, they don't call Pedro Munoz the young Punisher for nothing. I mean, that guy just punishes all the up and coming prospects, right? Anything that is a potential hype train, they usually send Pedro Munoz to do that work. And if they can get through Pedro Munoz, it means that they can probably be a ranked fighter in that division. Unfortunately, Chris Gutierrez could not get past that. He got dropped by Pedro Munoz. Um, I did like that even though he got dropped, he came back and he didn't quit, right? I think he got a round off of Pedro Munoz on some scorecards. So it's a good thing they didn't quit, but I think that Pedro Munoz really disrupted his flow. I think that Chris Gutierrez does really well when he's in that flow state where he's doing his leg kicks, he's getting that good kickboxing game down, using that cardio and pace, and just really pumping out that volume. But if you have the power of a Pedro Munoz, you have the movement of a Pedro Munoz that can kind of throw that rhythm off, that's when he gets in trouble. So I think that after knocking out Frankie Edgar in that highlight knockout that he had with that knee, think came back down to earth. But honestly, I was going to pick him against Montel Jackson. I think that was going to be a good fight for him to kind of get back on his feet. But he is fighting against now Alatengheili. When I broke him down in the footage that I saw of him, I think he's a decent technical striker that can really work in the grappling when he needs to. He does have good wrestling background with good power. I think the disadvantage for him here is going to be that he has really a below average speed and movement. I don't think he's going to have that movement and quicks that Pedro Munoz did uh, to kind of disrupt what Chris Gutierrez did. Now he is coming off two good wins, coming on semi-short notice because he was supposed to have a fight next week against Rani Yaha. I think that but that guy also pulled out. So it's not like too short notice of a fight. He was going to have a fight next week, but now he's going to fight this week. For me, depending on the odds, I mean, I think Chris is a parlay piece. I think that this is a good matchup for him. He has decent enough takedown defense, a 74% to weather off those takedowns that Alatengheili is probably going to do to him. And I think the speed disadvantage there is going to be too much, and he's probably either going to do a decision on Alatengheili or he's going to do a knockout. So I think this is a big comeback victory here for Chris Gutierrez. Obviously, depending on the odds. I mean, I checked Bet Online earlier today. I checked it right now. They haven't really released anything, so we don't know what it looks like. But I think that if it's like something like a minus 300 even, sign me up. I think that's good price for Chris Gutierrez here. Um, Kevin, yeah, what are your thoughts on this new fight here that we got on the card?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Chris Gutierrez just has trouble with like those like fast twitchy fighters like Pedro and like Badgaradana, who he knocked out, but he was losing to the entire time prior to that. So I think he's gonna be able to find some good shots on the stand up against this guy and probably either beat him by decision. I'm going decision win. I don't think this guy is going to get knocked out. But I also don't think he's good enough to beat Chris in any way. So I think Chris by decision is probably a good one here.
Yep. Definitely waiting for those odds to drop, and yeah, I think Chris is going to be a good money piece there. Alex, what are your thoughts on this new fight?
Well, I actually didn't know the Montel Jackson dropped out. But I had money on Chris Gutierrez.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was a very good dog play. Especially at plus I think 165 was when I got in.
Mm-hmm.
When I broke down Chris, I felt like he had very good range control. I know he lost a decision to Pedro, who's a shorter fighter, but I felt like Chris showed like really good moments, especially after that first round kind of knockdown that Pedro after he got knocked down from Pedro. I felt like Gutierrez he has like really nice straight jabs, low kicks, feints. Um, he feels like a very like a twitchy fighter. Like what you said, James. Like once he's in that flow, he gets like more comfortable. Um, so, I had him to beat Montel Jackson. So I haven't looked at this new guy, but yeah, so I can't make a decision. But I personally like Chris a lot as a fighter. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I feel the same way, and hopefully the odds drop maybe like tomorrow because I think they just announced it today, so probably too new, and they'll get some information. Hopefully the bookies will release those odds, but yeah, just get ready because when the line drops, I think they might like open Chris up at like I'm just gonna guess minus like 250 or something. I think he's gonna drop down to like minus 300 really quick, like something like that. I think people are gonna hammer Chris. I think, but yeah, definitely. I think totally agreement with all of you guys here. Um, Let's move on to the next fight that we have on the prelims still. I think this is going to be the last fight in the prelims, so we're almost at the main card. We have Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Diana Belbita. This is going to be, I think, a pretty fun fight. I think they mashed up some two pretty fun fighters here, even though it is there's really big age advantage for Diana. Carolina is 15-7. She's 3-2 in her last five. 37 years old. Like I mentioned, she's going up against Diana Belbita, 15-7, 2-3 in her last five. She's 27 years old. In terms of the height and reach, Diana is actually going to be the bigger fighter here. She has a 4-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage. So that's something to keep in mind. She's the younger and longer fighter here. Odds wise, this is some pretty interesting movement, I think. So Carolina, she opened up at minus 150 and she moved to about minus 220, but slowly but surely people have kind of bought the dog odds on Diana in the last few weeks. Carolina is now at minus 163 and Diana is at plus 143. Um, just breaking down these two girls, I mean, Carolina, I think she's a good striker. She has a really good skill set. I mean, I think she's in the middle of a career resurgence right now with a 3-5 win streak. She was in the UFC before and, kind of took a lot of L's. But I think that she's really improved in the last few years, which is kind of an anomaly in my opinion. I mean, usually fighters don't get better with age, right? But I think that she's gotten a little better since the last time she was in the UFC. Um, she's the more technical fighter, in my opinion, in this case, wealth of experience. I think that she has some solid grappling that's really improved since the L's. Um, and I think she might need it here because Diana is a high pressure volume striker. I think that she has some pretty good striking differentials, to be honest. She has 6.59 strikes landed per minute. She absorbs 5.72. So that's something that I really like to see. I like to see that positive striking differential when I'm looking at these kind of stats. As far as her defense, they're about slightly the same. Striking actually about slightly the same. It's just that Diana is a little bit more volume as far as the striking here. Now, the reason why I said that I think the grappling is going to come into play here because I think Diana is going to be the younger, faster fighter here. She might not have the skill set or the technique of a Carolina, but I think that Carolina could um, really come in and try to use that grappling that she's found in the last few years. So I think that might be the difference. For me as a play, I mean, I I would still go with the younger dog. I mean, I don't really I don't really feel good about paying that price of doing Carolina, right? Like she's gonna be the older fighter. I don't think that it's going to be too much of although there is a gap in the skill set and the technique, I don't think it's too much because I think that Diana's going to be able to overcome that with her speed, and just her youth, in my opinion. Um, Also, she is really improving as far as her grappling too. So that's something to take into account. I mean, her last fight, she did pretty well in her grappling against Oliveira. Um, I would pick Diana, but once again, I don't think that there's, for me at least, a play here. If I were to make a play, I'll just say Diana by decision because you're going to get some good juicy odds there. So that's my kind of analysis there. Alex, what do you think about this fight here?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this fight is again like another hard one to pick.
Yeah.
When I was watching Belbita, I thought it was pretty interesting. She has a very interesting kind of style. Um, she'll kind of like, all she'll do is kind of like step into the pocket and then throw like an overhook right, then kind of step back out and then step back in, kind of rinse and repeat that over right hook. Um, and Carolina is hittable, so I feel like, it could work. Um, and then on the flip side, Carolina, I feel like she's definitely a better striker, like more technique. She likes to kind of lunge at the opponent, then throw kind of like these 3, 4 combo jab punches. Um, But again, she's not the quickest fighter. She just seems very controlled. She is 37, so she's a seasoned vet. But yeah, this one's a tough one. I don't really know. I mean, I can make the case for either fighter. But if I were to pick, I'm going Carolina just because she seems more kind of grounded and controlled. But yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Kevin, what do we think about this WMMA fight we have here?
Um, yeah, I felt like the odds should have been around -200 or -300 Carolina. So I'm kind of surprised that it's moving towards Diana. It could be because of the age difference, because Diana's only 27 and then Carolina's like 37. So it could be like a in with the new, out with the old type scenario. But just looking at like the fights that they've had, like Carolina's fought way tougher opponents, and she's on a winning streak right now. Um, so it's hard for me to want to pick Diana, who lost to Gloria De Paula, who's like 6-5. So I mean, it's just hard for me to pick, someone that just hasn't really proven themselves to be able to beat a high caliber opponent yet, to just somehow beat someone that's ranked in the top 15 right now. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna have to go Carolina here, but I am a little bit suspect of this fight being a trap somehow because of how close the odds are. When on paper it seems like the odds should be a little bit wider.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And just for reference, the over 2.5 is -400 right now on a bet online. So most people probably think this is going to go by to decision. I mean, I would say if you do take Carolina, might as well just go for Carolina by points. It's plus 105. So you turn that -163 to a plus 105. Not bad. She also, although she could sub it, but I think the most likely path is either of these fights. Just take each side and go by points either way because you're gonna get some more juice odds that way. Um, all right, so let's move on to the next fight, and this is going to be on the main card. So we finally arrived to the main card, and this is something that I'm really excited about this fight. I think that this is a potential money maker fight here. We have Bill Algeo, Senor Perfecto, versus Alexander Hernandez, the Great Ape, featherweight fight. So just keep that in mind. This is going to be Alexander dropping down from 155 to 145 yet again. He did that the first time, and he's got lights put out by Billy Q. So just keep that in mind for when this fight is happening. Bill Algeo 17-7. He's 3-2 in his last five, coming off a pretty good dub against TJ Brown. 34 years old, 6 feet, 73-inch reach. Alexander Hernandez 14-6, 2-3 in his last five, 31 years old, so he's a younger fighter slightly. He's going to be a shorter guy, 5'9", and he has a slight reach disadvantage at 72, so a 1 inch off there. Odds, I think these are some really interesting odds. The more I look at these odds, the more I'm thinking, man, is this a trap? Because right now, Bill Algeo is -145. He did open up at -115, and then he actually got bet down to a dog at plus 145. But since he has since settled to about -145. So some interesting line movement there. When I broke down this fight, Bill Algeo, fast-paced striker. He has the kind of low hands, the kind of karate style, so it does lead him to getting hit, but he pumps out a pretty decent amount of volume. I think that he has fantastic cardio for this division, great durability. The man I don't think he's ever been knocked out before. So just fantastic durability. He does weather a lot of storms, but I really think that that's part of his game plan is to weather those storms and make the other guy tired because he does have that good durability, good pace, good recovery as well. Um, and I think that for this fight, for Alex Hernandez, I mean, He does have great athletic ability. I think that he does have some nice like power, some explosion, but I feel like he's one of those fighters that only has like a round and a half to do that. And then once that round and a half goes, his gas tank durability issues, they all just come really fast, and he just turns into a totally different fighter who just more likely he's more like a point fighter and just tries to survive that way. I don't really understand why he's dropping down to 145 again, because the last time he tried that, he got knocked out by Billy Quarantino, who I think is honestly a really similar fighter to Bill Algeo, except he might be like a half a level to a level above Bill Algeo, right? But same style fighter. So I'm really wondering why he's dropping down, because he just beat Jim Miller, which I thought was a decent dub. I mean, Jim Miller's really old, but I think that was a decent dub on his record, just to kind of get his winning streak back, right? Um, he has solid, grappling, striking is pretty solid, but I think that he's kind of mid in his grappling. And if he tries to grapple, he does get even more tired. So for me, I mean, the play is Bill Algeo for me. I think medium confidence, just because Bill Algeo does like to weather storms, and he could get caught in that kind of bum rush that Alex does, right? I mean, remember the Beneil Dariush fight where Alex just came out, shot out of the cannon, and Beneil just like kind of took it on the chin and he got KO'd like that. So I think that I'm going Bill Algeo. Potential parlay piece for me for Bill Algeo, or Bill Algeo by decision. I think any of those paths could be good. We'll see how the weigh-ins look, right? If Alex looks solid in the weigh-ins, maybe I'll reconsider. But just watching both of these guys fight, I mean, I think that this is a perfect kind of opponent for Bill Algeo to kind of dance on and kind of win the decision. So pick is Bill Algeo. Kevin, what do you think about this fight here?
Yeah, I think it's a good opponent for Bill Algeo. Um, the guy that Bill Algeo beat in the past, Joe Anderson Brito, is kind of has like a similar style to what Alexander might try to implement, which is to just try to rush you and knock you out or submit you real quick. So yeah, I think he's smart enough to handle in the situation and probably diffuse it. He's also got some good wins, like his win over TJ Brown actually was thinking that TJ was going to be a little bit too physically dominant for Bill. So he kind of proved me wrong there. Um, that is one of my main concerns is Alex um, he might be, he might have been on a transition to get back to 145 physically. And maybe the last time he fought there, he wasn't quite there yet. And he probably felt like he was ready this time or something, and that's might be why he's taking it. So I wouldn't be surprised if Alex got the dub, but I'm gonna go low confidence Bill Algeo.
For sure. Alex, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah. So, yeah, when I initially broke down this fight and watched the tape, like you, James, I thought Hernandez looked really good against Jim Miller. Um, I thought, he threw really solid 1-2 combinations. And I felt like uh Alexander Hernandez, he has like a very built body type, low center of gravity, but he looks like he's very planted in his stance. And Bill Algeo, he will do calf kicks, and so I feel like that'll play a part in his fight against Hernandez. Um, but yeah, Bill Algeo, when I watched him, he has kind of like a unorthodox fighting style. Low guard, hittable, like you said. But he's never been knocked out, so he does have a chin. And I just think that the endurance of Bill Algeo is gonna like be really important in this fight. Um, and all he has to do is just weather the storm. Because I think Hernandez is going to look better in round one, especially like the first 2-3 minutes. So as long as Bill Algeo weathers that storm, I feel like it's pretty cut and dry that he'll win. So my pick is going to be Bill Algeo. Also kind of like a medium low confidence, not the most confident, but I could see value in Bill Algeo.
Yeah, definitely. Bill Algeo by points right now is plus 215. Not bad. I think I like that. So, all right. So let's move on to the next fight here that we have on the main card. We have Philipe Lins versus Ion Cutelaba. This is going to be a light heavyweight fight, so some big boys coming through. Um, this fight here, I mean, Philipe Lins 17-5, 3-2 in his last five. He's actually a heavyweight, if I'm not mistaken, that moved down to light heavyweight. He's gone on a kind of 3-fight win streak, so good move for him. And he did it at the good age of 38, so he's 38 years old. Slightly older, kind of veteran kind of guy, but he's I guess he's found his right weight class here. Um, it's going up against Jan Kutilaba, 17-9 and 1. He's coming off of that victory. He's 2-3 in his last five, 29 years old. Philipe is going to be the bigger guy here, though. I mean, he has a 1-inch height advantage, 3-inch reach advantage, and it kind of makes sense because he's the one dropping down from heavyweight to light heavyweight. Um, Odds, I mean, it's going to be pretty close. Right now, Ion Cutelaba is minus 152. He actually opened up as a dog at plus 130. So that's something to keep in mind there, that he was a dog and then now he's bet to the favorite. So people are buying it in on the Ion Cutelaba side, supposedly. So breaking down this fight here, I mean, Felipe Lins, decent jack of all trades kind of guy. I think he could do a little bit of everything. I think he's pretty big as far as just his frame. And it makes sense because I mean he's dropped down from heavyweight, so he's big and strong. I don't think he's even been taken down in the UFC yet. He has like 100% takedown defense. Um, Coming off three straight dubs. I mean, level competition hasn't been the greatest in terms of his dubs. I mean, if you just look at the guys that he's fighting, Marsham Grisham, Olim St. Preux, um, Marcin Prashino. Three of those guys, I don't think they're that UFC caliber. I think that OSP is like out of the UFC at this point, and I think Grisham might be out too. So not the greatest level of competition there. And before that, he actually got knocked out by Tanner Boser, who Ion Cutelaba actually knocked out in his last fight. So some interesting dynamic there. Um, Striking wise, I mean, their their stats are pretty similar. Like, there's not really too big a gap either way. I think Eon is Kutalaba is more of a volume kind of person, and I think his grappling game is pretty good too. I mean, he's one of those guys that has good power, good wrestling background. He looks great when he gets those takedowns and get top control. He looks like a contender, looks like a ranked fighter. But man, this guy fights like a negative IQ ogre sometimes. I mean, I think he's one of those guys that's like all hammer, no nail, 6-8-1 in the UFC, but all of those losses, in my opinion, are to legit ranked fighters or contenders. So he hasn't lost to like bad people at all. Um, I just don't know if I could trust Kutalaba with my money because I just feel like he is a little chinny, and Felipe Lins, if anything, he does have some solid power. I think if he could sit down on those shots and wait for Cutelaba to come to him, Cutelaba might just be walking into a KO. Um, but I think Cutelaba is the more talented fighter here. I think he should be the quicker fighter here, and obviously he's the younger fighter here. Um, and just from what I see, I think that Cutelaba, I mean, this is probably going to be the worst opponent that he's fought. I mean, just look at some of the guys that he's fought. He's fought like Kennedy, he's fought Johnny Walker, Ryan Spann, Dustin Jacoby, Magomed Ankalaev. These are some pretty legit dudes. So I would say my pick is Cutelaba, but that is a damn risky bet. I think. So I'll probably stay away from it. I could totally see why people would even play Lins, but I'm going Cutelaba here just because I think that he'll be able to be that hammer in this fight more often than not. But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets KO'd. So no money here for me. Alex, what were your thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah, so when I compare the two fighters, I like that Cutelaba is definitely a lot more twitchy and quick on his feet. He is 29, so 9 years younger than Linz, who's 38. Um, I do agree that it's not the best look that he's been finished in three of his last five fights. Um, and because of that, against an opponent like Linz, who has definitely he has clear power. He can definitely get knocked out for sure. But I just like the way Kutalaba fights, a lot more. Like he just looks like more fresh, and seems like like he's definitely going to be the one to put the pressure on Linz. So I think it's all just about him not getting caught. But that is a big ask. And looking at Linz, I didn't really like his last fight. Although he won, he did a lot of what he did was he'll like punch, 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 and then he'll like immediately go into the clinch. Um, so him wanting to go into the clinch, it'll play a big role because Kutalaba is also known for his wrestling. But again, just if you compare the two fighters, the stand-up game, Kutalaba, in my eyes, looks a lot better. So Kutalaba's a pick for me. Um, but not the most confident again.
Yeah, Kevin, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I feel like this might be one of the traps, or it was intended to be one of the traps. Uh, on paper, obviously, Philipe looks a little bit better because, Cutelaba like gets knocked out for a living. But yeah, he does have the better striking, in my opinion. And he does have a 10-year age difference. And yeah, I agree with what you said. This could be probably one of his easiest matchups so far. And this is also probably the youngest fighter that they've given to Philipe. Like so far, if you look at the fighters that he's fought against, I mean, Andre Arlovsky's 44, Oven St. Prue's 40, you know, and then Maxim Grishin was also like 39. So yeah, I mean, it just seems like like this dude's only fought grandpas, and it doesn't really mean much, when you're beating dudes that are like 40 at the end of their career. I mean, it means you could like kind of beat veterans, I guess, but I wouldn't really even count them as veterans when they're like approaching like retirement. So yeah, I'm probably gonna go Eon here. Yeah, I kind of like Eon here.
For sure.
Yeah.
You think you'll how confident do you feel in him? Do you think he's like a potential like money piece, or he kind of just a
I
pick?
don't really think this is that. I'm not that confident in this because I feel like Felipe Lean still is like a pretty high IQ fighter to some extent.
Yeah.
I feel like he's smart enough to. I mean, he got knocked out in the first round before. Uh, yeah, actually, he's gotten knocked out in the first round a couple times before. But yeah, I don't know if he probably is aware of Eon's game plan. Um, I'm not sure if that's enough to stop it though. So I mean, he is a jujitsu black belt as well, and he's also going to be the stronger guy. So I can kind of see Ion either getting a knockout or this guy like somehow getting a submission.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't see. I don't. It's not really a parlay piece for me, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that makes sense for sure. Cool. Well, we'll just move on to the next fight. I think either way that fight will be fireworks. So we'll probably get probably a finish somewhere around there. Speaking of finishes and speaking of exciting fights, we got Drew Dober versus Ricky Glenn. This is going to be a lightweight matchup. Drew Dober, 26-12. He is 3-2 in his last five, 34 years old. He's going up against Ricky Glenn, who is 22-7-2. Um, he's coming off that first round KO against Christian Gallegos, 34 years old. So he's also same age as Drew Dober. He's 6 foot, so he does have a pretty decent height advantage to Drew Dober, who's 5'8". They both have about the same reach. So Rick Glenn is going to be the taller fighter here. Uh, man, I think that I kind of wish that the price was a little bit better for Drew Dober. Right now he's minus 425. So even since I think he opened up at minus 410. So but he was a minus 500 at one point, but he's been kind of bet back down to minus 425. So I do wish that he was a minus 300 or something because I think that's a little bit safer of a price. But man, minus 425 for a guy that gets hit that much. I mean, he is the Crimson Chin. He does have a uncrackable chin, except for the last fight, right, against Matt Steamroller, where Steamroller kind of just took his chin. But he likes to take shots on his chin. He turns a lot of these fights into 50-50 fights. And I don't know if that's a good recipe to back fighters who do that. I mean, Drew Dober is an explosive striker. I kind of like to compare him to like a Michael Chandler with no wrestling, like kind of fights like that where he tries to go for the highlights, try to go for the performance bonuses. Um, but I just don't know if you can trust a guy like that, especially with money. As we saw in the last fight, I mean, his chin finally got cracked, and once the chin goes, I don't know if it comes back 100%. Like that's just something that's as far as like an attribute. Like once that thing is taken away from you, like unless you have some kind of reverse aging kind of method that you have, uh, it kind of goes. Because I mean, we saw that with Tony Ferguson, right? Tony Ferguson, the guy who constantly took a lot of damage throughout his career, and then at some point that durability just stopped. So I have a feeling that Drew Dober is gonna get to that point, but probably not against a guy like Ricky Glenn because man, Ricky Glenn, I really don't know what he does well. He's doesn't look like a good striker, doesn't look like a good grappler. I think he might just be in the UFC because he has like decent durability aside from the last fight. He just does not seem like a UFC caliber athlete, right? Like very little power, no quick twitch ability. Um, I honestly think that they did set up Ricky Glenn for Drew Dober because the UFC does like Drew Dober. He's made them a lot of money with some highlights and good fights, puts on exciting fights as well. But I mean, this is the fight game. This is MMA. Like if you can land one shot on a chin that is deteriorated, you just have to land it at a certain angle and it could be lights out. So the pick here is Drew Dober, but man, I don't know if I could trust him too much as a parlay piece, but honestly, I'm probably gonna put him in a parlay just because I'm fading Ricky Glenn. I don't think this guy is that good. So pick is Drew Dober, potential parlay piece. I'll look at the weigh-ins, the face-offs, and all those things. But yeah, that's my pick there. Kevin, what do we think about this fight between Drew Dober and Ricky Glenn here?
Yeah, this kind of. I mean, this fight looks a little weird to me. This dude's 6 feet, and Drew's like 5'8". So you got a tall ass guy versus a stocky guy. Uh, I think Drew is, improving slowly. He's definitely the more active fighter too. He had 3 fights in 2022, and Ricky Glenn's last fight was uh, a loss, but before that, he hadn't really fought for 2 years, almost about a year and a half actually. Um, so yeah, I mean, he just seems like he's got a lot more experience than Drew, and he actually has like some decent performances. Like he has a tie against Grant Dawson, and he beat Gavin Tucker, but that was back in like 2018. Um, yeah, I just find this one to be kind of a weird fight, because if I do have Drew winning, you would suspect that he'd win by knockout, but this guy only has lost once via knockout. So it is kind of a weird fight. It does seem a little trappy. Um, and yeah, I mean, if he's only been knocked out once in 30 fights, it's going to be hard to see Drew getting the knockout, in my opinion. Um, and then because this guy's a lot rangier, it might be hard to see Drew like getting a decision win either. So um, maybe Drew might submit him. That's kind of what I would probably put the bet on, or somehow Drew manhandling him just because he's got that stocky frame and this dude's like got the lanky frame. Um, but yeah, I'm probably gonna go with Drew anyways, just because Ricky Glenn just kind of looks like a bum. Um, and Drew has like 9 submission wins, so I'm gonna go Drew by sub.
Plus 1,200 right there. Not bad. Alex,
Damn.
what do you think about? Yeah, no. Alex, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I'm definitely putting Drew Dober in my parlays. Like when I'm watching Ricky Glenn, I'm just very underwhelmed. Um, first off, his like the way he fights is kind of weird. He'll do this thing where he'll like slowly reach his arms out one at a time to kind of like gauge the distance. Um, but yeah, if you like watch his last like his fights, he'll constantly do this arm thing where he'll reach it out, and then I feel like he's doing it because again to kind of like gauge the distance, and then once he feels comfortable and feels like he's in range, then he'll throw a punch. But again, it doesn't look like he hits hard. Um, doesn't really grapple well at all. He got taken down multiple times by Grant Dawson. Um, so yeah, I just feel like Ricky Glenn is he's a really bad fighter. I don't think he should be in the UFC. So yeah, my pick is Drew Dober.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Just tell you guys a little bit more about the props too. I just find this funny. Like Drew Dober by KO is minus 185 now. That's some like
Damn.
crazy. Like, people think this guy's about to get a shadow realm pretty much. Like so, yeah, it's really interesting there. I mean, I like the value of what Kevin said. I mean, if he feels like the sub plus 1,200, I think it's a much better bet. Honestly, minus 185 for a prop. It's kind of crazy. Um,
Yeah, I mean, what I was gonna say, yeah, no, I didn't even know he had nine. Drew Dober has 9 submission wins. That's a
yeah,
lot. Like 9 subs, 10 KOs. That's 50-50 right there. Um, so yeah, might be a good play actually.
yep, definitely, definitely. All right. We'll move on to the next fight that we have on the main card. I think this is the third fight on the main card, so we're almost to the co-main. This fight is going to be, oh man, this could be the fight of the night depending on how it plays out. But we have Alex Morono versus Joaquin Buckley. In my opinion, two exciting fighters. A lot of people might not know about Alex Morono because he's very low key, but a lot of people know about Joaquin Buckley because he got that probably the greatest KO of all time that I've probably seen in the MMA cage. That double kick that he had. So that was like the ultimate highlight reel that he had there. Um, anyways, Alex Morono, 23-8, is 4-1 in his last five. 33 years old. He's gonna fight against Joaquin Buckley, who's 16-6, 3-2 in his last five. 29 years old. So Joaquin Buckley is going to be the slightly younger man here. About the same height, reach advantage. Joaquin Buckley does have a 4-inch reach advantage here, so it's going to be a little bit longer. Joaquin Buckley, as you guys know, is he used to fight at 185, but he cut down to 170 in his last fight against Andre Fiallo, Mr. All Hands No Chin, and he got the second round KO dub against him. From what I watched from that fight, I mean, I think he has great power, probably even better power at 170. I think that it was a good cut to his natural weight. He should have been at 170 his whole career. He just was one of those guys that probably liked to lift weights and maybe take some potential juice, and get big at 185. But I think he looks really good at 170. Um, Something to note though, I look back at the judges' scorecards. Andre won round one on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards. So it wasn't like a flat out domination that Joaquin Buckley had. He did knock out Andre in that second round, so he did win the fight. But going into that second round, he was down on the judges' scorecard. So that's something to note. Joaquin Buckley, I mean, he relies on that crazy explosive power. I mean, I think he's improving technically, but I don't think he's that technical of a fighter. He just really relies on that athleticism and the raw power that he has. I do like that he's tough. He has decent durability and pace, and he doesn't quit. When I remember watching him against Nasruddin Imanov, I mean, he was losing that fight. Nasruddin was a much bigger guy. He was 6'3", longer dude. But I like that Joaquin didn't quit, and he made Nasruddin work for all 3 rounds. I think he got like a 29-28 or something. So he eventually did take a round off of Imanov. So that was something like good. I like to see that when I like to watch fighters. Um, but I mean, I think that it potentially could be a bad matchup for him because I think Alex Morono is a solid all-round fighter that can do a little bit of everything, and he's looked really good in his last 6 fights. Aside from getting KO'd by Ponzinibbio on 5 days short notice, I mean, he was winning that fight on all the scorecards, and then he got caught in that round 3 and he lost the fight. So it happens, but he did also get caught by Chaos Williams in round 1 as well. So I mean, this guy does have some potential suspect durability against power, right? Against guys that have power, like a Chaos Williams, like a Ponzinibbio, potentially a Joaquin Buckley. Um, but he does have a good high guard. He's a fantastic grappler with credentials. He doesn't like to use it though, so that's a potential red flag there. He prefers to strike. So that makes him more of an opportunistic grappler rather than a straight takedown artist. So he really likes to try to get into scrambling exchanges and grappling exchanges, like how he guillotined Tim Means, right? He missed that spinning back fist that he got, and then bam, he just got Tim Means' neck just like that. So he doesn't really rely on those straight, like kind of Dagestanian takedowns or judo throws or trips. He relies on more of an opportunistic kind of grab where he gets you into a potential sub. But yeah, he does have some pretty good grappling credentials. I mean, black belts all around. Um, I think that he has pretty good IQ, so I'm hoping that he's learned from both of those KOs to follow the game plan and not get into these firefights against these dangerous fighters. I mean, I think that if he just was a little bit smarter against Ponzi, he would have got a decision win. If he didn't want to go right into a firefight with Chaos Williams in round 1, he probably would have got that win over 3 rounds. So I'm hoping that he's learned from that. I don't know if he is, but I think I trust him enough. I mean, he's a dog right now at like plus plus 131. So each time I keep on checking these odds, it gets lower and lower. I mean, just to tell you guys, Alex Murata opened up at minus 150 actually. So he opened up as a favorite. Now he's been turned to a dog, and now Wonky Buckley is actually the favorite. So that's an interesting line movement there. My pick is Alex Morono. I think I'm going to commit and say medium confidence. I think he's going to be my underdog lock of the week, because I know that Joaquin Buckley is powerful, 170, but man, that Andre Fiallo win is aging badly with each passing day, because we just saw what Andre Fiallo did against Tim Means, and that didn't look good at all. If Tim Means can do that to you, like what Joaquin Buckley did with that head kick, although it was nice at the time, I don't know if it looks that great now, especially if you're fighting against a smart all-around fighter in Alex Morono. So I'm going with Alex Morono here. Buckley is live for a KO early in round one, potentially round two. So it might be a good way to hedge that. But if it goes to round three or something, man, I think Alex Morono got this as far as maybe like a decision or something. So the pick is Alex Morono. Medium confidence for underdog play. Kevin, what were your thoughts here on this fight?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty tough fight to choose from as well, just because Joaquin Buckley looks so good after moving down to welterweight. I think welterweight is his natural weight class that he's supposed to be in. Um, yeah, I mean, he was already doing pretty decent in middleweight. Nothing extraordinary, but he's getting by. He was able to do pretty well there. Just in some fights, he would get knocked out. But I like Joaquin Buckley's movement. Alex Morono and Joaquin Buckley, they both have pretty decent movement. Um, I think Joaquin has the range advantage though, and the strength advantage. So I kind of see him being able to keep the distance on Alex, which would kind of negate Alex's ability to land those shots that he always lands on his opponents. Like Alex has good hands for sure. But I feel like Joe Queen isn't gonna play that game with him where they try to trade. He might just try to keep him at range and throw hard shots. And um, I just really don't like Alex's like his athleticism. It just feels like he doesn't really have much of it. Whereas Joe Queen is like super athletic. Um, yeah, so it really depends on like the gas tank, I guess. Whether you know who has like the better gas tank towards like round two and three. I feel like it's probably gonna go to a decision for some reason, but there's definitely a chance that Joe Queen just goes ham and tries to bully this guy though. Um, so I'm probably gonna go Joe Queen here uh, as my pick. Yeah.
For sure. Alex, what are your thoughts here on this fight?
Um, I think for me, my pick is also going to be Alex Morono, like you, James. I think he's a pretty good underdog bet here. I just think he's going to out technique uh Buckley. Watching Alex Morono, I like how he's similar to like Cutelaba, like very like twitchy and like very like spry on the feet. I like how they're very like bouncy like that. I like fighters like that because like visually it just looks nice. Um and like Alex has really good striking kicks. Uh he throws pretty hard as well. Um but again, the worry is that KO power of Buckley, but I feel like Morono will be able to just out technique Buckley. So he's going to be my pick.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the odds. It looks good. So I mean, I would definitely play those odds. I mean, I feel like they're gonna drop each and every day. I don't know if it's gonna get wider for Buckley because he did open up as an underdog. So I mean, I can't imagine that it'll go a little wider now. But if it does, then yeah, let's see what happens in the fight. um, All right, let's go on to the next fight that we have in the card. This is going to be the co-main event here. We have Joe Pyfer versus Abdul Razak Alhassan. This is going to be it could be a quick one because these guys throw some heavy heat. Joe Pyfer, body bags nickname, 11-2, 4-1 in his last five. He's 27 years old, 6'2", 75-inch reach. He's going up against Abdul Razak Alhassan, nicknamed Judo Thunder. 12-5 in his last, in 12-5 record. He is 2-3 in his last five, coming off that pretty good win against Claudio Ribeiro, I believe. 38 years old, so he is the older fighter here. Has an 11 year age gap against Joe Pyfer. 5'10", also the shorter fighter, and he's 73 inches, so slightly shorter fighter in terms of the length too. Odds, just to let you guys know, I mean, these odds kind of ballooned up, opened up. Joe Pyfer opened up at minus 350, went all the way down to like a minus 500 something, minus 575 at the peak. And then now he's been bet back to a minus 450. So people are shoving in on the Joe Pyfer train. Um, when I broke down these two fighters, specifically Joe Pyfer, I mean, he has hands of stone, good pressure, good composure too, for being a guy who really relies on that power. I think that he has good patience and really waits for those opportunistic kind of, haymakers and hooks, punches. Um, he does go for the kill when he smells blood, as you guys saw with his GM3 fight, right? It took a little while for him to kind of get settled, but once he saw that GM3 had nothing for him on the stand up, he just went in and like just body bagged this dude. Like it looked like a really physical like kind of mismatch there. He also has an underrated ground grappling game that I don't think we've seen too much yet. So he might be kind of implementing that in this fight if needed, but I think that he's gonna try to go for the knockout like he's been doing for the last few fights. Um, I think he's also the UFC's new golden boy. I mean, they want to promote this guy. He has a pretty good story with Dana, how Dana White like gave him some housing or something for a few months. So I mean, there's a good storyline for him. I can't imagine this is a top moment yet. I mean, I don't think they're gonna sell the top on a guy like Abdul Razak Alhassan. I mean, that'll be pretty messed up if Abdul comes in here and just KOs this guy, and that's the end of Joe Pyfer. But yeah, I just don't see that happening. I think that there is going to be a little danger here. I mean, this is not GM3, right? Abdul Razak Alhassan is powerful striker. I mean, this guy's a headhunter. He does have a judo background. Like if you look at his social medias, I mean, his nickname's like Judo Thunder, right? There's some of his like nicknames are always about judo, but he's fallen in love with that power. I mean, I don't think he does too much judo anymore. Maybe because he's 38, doesn't really want to grapple anymore, but I think he's going to be live for a knockout because of that power. I mean, if it comes down to it, and let's say that you have Joe Pyfer in your parlays, because I'm sure that a lot of people are probably going to have Joe Pyfer in their parlays based on how the odds have moved. Might be good to sprinkle a little hedge on Al Hassan KO, like round one or something, round two, just kind of keep it safe because this guy can bang. I mean, he has some solid power. He's just to let you guys know too, he stopped the Claudio Ribeiro hype train, right? Like Claudio Ribeiro was coming in as a hype prospect, and Alhassan kind of just took him out. But I think Joe's on another level though. I think he's safe to potentially parlay here. Yeah, I think Joe's gonna be a parlay piece. I just don't see any way, and especially since it comes down to like the second last fight on the card, you can definitely just do the hedge, like I mentioned for KO for Abdul Razak. So pick is going to be Joe Pyfer. Good parlay piece. Alex, what were your thoughts here on the this fight?
Yeah, I really actually like that little hedge play that you mentioned. Because Abdul is a headhunter. So it could be smart to, if you have Joe Pyfer in your parlays, to hedge him with the KO for Abdul. But in terms of the breakdown, I feel like Joe Pyfer, he hits like a truck. Not the most volume, but when he lands, he'll land heavy. Um, Also, that age gap, is there. 27 years old fighting a 38-year-old. What I thought was interesting was when he KO'd Gerald. Um, he had that KO, he had that win, but then I'm looking at his tapology, and he also has a grappling win against Gerald as well, who's a known grappler. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So I think this guy's got skills like everywhere. So I like Joe here to win, and I'm gonna have him in my parlays.
Sir, full send on Joe. Kevin, what were your thoughts on this fight between Joe Pyfer and Abdul Razak?
Yeah, I think it's obviously not a guaranteed win because this guy, Judo Thunder, has 12. Basically, all his wins are knockouts. But I think Joe has good enough movement to defuse that. And yeah, I think he's a smart enough fighter to kind of see where the dangers are with this guy and create a strategy that'll allow him to get up. So I think he's just all around better fighter. Um, yeah, I don't think the UFC would set him with that part of the fight, to be honest. Given that he's the co-main, and then this is his second UFC fight, or third UFC fight. I mean, yeah, I think they're gonna be pumping the train for a little bit. So yeah, I'm going with. Well, I'm adding him to the parlays too. I've actually got a max bet parlay on him. I'm trying to. We're trying to eat. I'm trying to see the red beard in action. You know those dudes with red beard, man, they don't fuck around, dude. You know what I'm saying? Those Justin KGs and shit.
Gold nickel kind of those kind of dudes.
Yeah, exactly. When you got the red beard, you basically got the power and IQ.
These guys are fucking strong.
You know what I'm saying?
Guys who look like that. Joe Pyfer, if you look at his body, bro, like fucking like his chest, like fucking has abs, like I don't know, man. It's a physical specimen for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
He looks like buff nerds that you knew in high school.
It's like a nerd that took some steroids and shit. Let's see. Next fight we have is going to be in the main card. We got it's the main event actually. So it's Grant Dawson versus Bobby Green. This is also going to be potential coming out party for a certain fighter. So Grant Dawson, 21-1. He does have that draw in his record against Ricky Glenn of all people. He's 4-0-1 in his last five. 29 years old, 5'10", 72-inch reach, fighting against Bobby King Green, tried and true UFC vet, 30-14-1. He's coming off of that. I don't even know if you call it. It was just a win of Tony Ferguson, or the carcass of Tony Ferguson at this point. 37 years old, so he's definitely not too much in his prime anymore. 5'10", 71-inch reach. So in terms of physical dimensions, I mean, they're pretty much the same. There's no reach advantage or height advantage either way too much. I think that this is going to be another potential steamroll for Grant Dawson. I mean, Grant Dawson's coming off of that dominating win over Damir Ismagulov. I mean, he just dominated Damir, maybe sent him back to his retirement with that grappling and pace they put on. Had Damir in a full Nelson master lock. That was like a meme. That was just a really embarrassing way to go for Damir. Because I remember that coming into that fight, he said that he was going to retire, but he came back, and to come back and kind of look like that, that's not a good look. Grant Dawson, the thing I like about this guy is, and this is the type of people that I like to have money on, right? Like a lot of control time, and he took the secured, boring dub. Didn't care about the booze. Didn't care about like all the naysayers. All he did was take a dub on his record, and you can see that. I mean, this guy's record is 20-1. Like he's only lost once. It has one draw. I mean, 20 dubs. Like his win percentage is so damn high. Um, Constantly diving for legs. I mean, follows the game plan to get it to the ground. Striking's okay, and nothing special, but really, I mean, his pace and pressure is pretty damn good. I mean, I think that it's pretty special for this lightweight class. Even he can put a lot of people in trouble with that pace and pressure. I believe that this is going to be his first 5-round fight, so it's going to be his first, main event. Based on his fighting style, I don't think there's going to be any worries. I think that he always had a good kind of pace to him, so like he doesn't really tire out from what I've seen. If he does tire out, I don't think there's that much of a dip in his performance when he does. So I think that it's going to be fine for a 5-round fight, and he probably will take this to a decision because fighting Bobby Green, I mean, exciting stand up, low hands. He's one of those dudes that just always puts on an exciting fight, whether he wins or loses, right? He does have a wrestling background, but he doesn't really use it anymore. I mean, I think maybe at this point he's too old, so he probably just wants to take things to the feet. Um, he relies on volume and pace to really get through his fights, and I think that's where the detriment is going to be for him because I think to beat a guy like Grant Dawson, you probably need to have some kind of power to punish him on the feet when he's trying to go in for those takedowns or trying to go in for those just like grappling exchanges. And Bobby Green at this point, I mean, he does have hands; they're pretty quick, but I think he has like below average power. He has good cardio, but the durability, seems to be waning. If you guys remember that fight that he had against Jared Gordon, I think he looked pretty flat against Jared Gordon, and I think he got saved in that fight because it looked like he was about to lose that fight, and that headbutt kind of changed things, changed the no contest. But before that, he was coming off of a KO against Drew Dober, where Drew Dober cracked him. That was a knockout. Come off of Islam Makhachev, like pretty much like sub. That it's not good looks. I mean, I think that Bobby Green is probably past his prime at this point, and the UFC. Just look at how they treat their fighters, right? I mean, they put him against Tony Ferguson. They probably wanted to see who would win, and then use that person who won to kind of build up another fighter, which is Grant Dawson. So, like for example, I mean, Tony Ferguson's going to fight Paddy Pimblett, right? So they're trying to always set up that younger fighter, and I think they're definitely trying to set up Grant Dawson here because his record is immaculate. Um, I think Grant Dawson's an easy parlay piece here. I could see him doing a potential decision, more likely a not decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to actually come out and make a statement and get a sub here. I mean, I think that Bobby Green is someone that he could probably sub because Bobby Green isn't that much of a physical specimen. He's still pretty quick for his age, but I don't think he has that like bull strength that Grant Dawson would need to worry about. So pick here is Grant Dawson, parlay piece for me. And yeah, Kevin? What do you think about this fight here?
Yeah, this is definitely the easiest pick of the card in terms of like a lock. And reason being is that, well, for one, Bobby's that grappling, like he's not much of a grappler. And he's kind of like a gatekeeper, like fight setup kind of guy. Like you beat Bobby to set up other fights. Like, like, like that's who they gave Islam, right? Um, setting Islam up. I think they're doing that to set up potentially a fight between Grant and Islam in the future. Just that's kind of how they do it, right? Like, oh, they both beat Bobby, so let's do better, right? And on top of that, Buckley have any knockout power, so like your only concern would be like Grant getting knocked out, but I don't think that's gonna happen because he would just take it to the ground and you know implement his like excellent ground game on Bobby. And it's like no way that Bobby's gonna be able to train for that kind of skill in one camp. So um, yeah, I think the Grant by decision is gonna be a pretty good one. But I doubt Grant would try to, you know, just hang on it for 5 rounds. That'd be like too tiring probably. So he's gonna go for the sub instead.
Yeah, I like that play. Plus 130 for sub Bright Grant right now. Alex, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm same with you guys. I think Grant Dawson set and forget type parlay. Um, he's like way too relent. Grant Dawson's way too relentless with his takedowns. Like this is the type of guy you want to have your money on, because he has that game plan and he's gonna stick to it. If you just watch his fights, like just so relentless with his takedowns, like he'll keep shooting for them. Um, and Yeah, like the fact that it is a 5 round fight, that is like a bit scary because like his Dawson's fight against Ricky Glenn that ended up in a draw. He did kind of gas out in the last round, even though he kind of dominated the first two. So yeah, if I'm Grant, I'm going for the kill in the early rounds. Um, and I like that Grant Dawson he trains out of American Top Team, which is a really good gym, and so uh, I've heard that his striking is getting a lot better as well. So I think it's a pretty comfortable parlay piece.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, if his striking can even get to like a B-ish level, man, I think he has a ways to go, man. That he's gonna be a contender for sure. So yeah, I agree with you guys. Cool. Well, it looks like we're all on the Grant Dawson train, Joe Pyfer train. So, some pretty good parlay pieces there. Speaking of parlays and picks, bets, what do you guys have as far as any kind of potential plays here? I know we have to watch the face-offs and weigh-ins and whatnot, but any kind of preliminary kind of plays that you guys have going on, Kevin, I'll hand it to you if you have anything on your mind right now.
Um, yeah, I kind of like 3-man parlay. Drew Dober, Grant Dawson, and Joe Pyfer just shove make their fucking past losses. Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna keep it simple this time. Like, there's also ways to play. Let's say you have some large parlays pieces that you want to hedge on. You can kind of do like a 3-man with Pyfer and Grant plus whatever underdog you need to hedge against. It gets used. Um, yeah.
Yeah, that parlay that you mentioned with Dawson, Pyfer, and Dober, I think put in $1, you can get 87 cents back. So almost a break even kind of parlay, but yeah, I mean most likely yeah, exactly. I mean
Pretty good.
most likely that
Pretty
one's
good.
gonna cash, and as we
Still higher than 30%
yeah,
chance of hitting.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Alex, do you have any potential plays? We have pre face offs. Any kind of potential plays you have?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I also like that 3-man parlay. I think it's a fairly safe parlay. You can maybe go like 2 units on that. But in terms of like straight bets, I like Alex Morono plus 147. I think that's decent underdog bet. Um, Mateus Mendonca, like a first round finish. I feel like that might be a pretty good play that I'll probably look at. Um, and then in terms of like a rocket parlay that I'm probably going in on, it's gonna be obviously those 3 fighters that Kevin mentioned, Pyfer, Dawson, and Drew Dober. And then I'm also gonna add Montana De La Rosa, Mateus Mendonca, Bill Algeo, and Alex Morono. So that's one
Ooh,
unit. That's a 17 parlay, 1 unit to win $1,780. So it's a nice little rocket ship
You're
rocket parlay.
nice.
Maybe you don't even need to go 1 unit on that. Maybe go like a quarter unit, $25 to win for 445. So I'm probably gonna go in on that, sprinkle in on that.
I like that. Yeah, I mean 17.8x, not bad at all. Yeah, I mean for me, man, yeah, Grant Dawson, Joe Pyfer. I'll see how Drew Dober looks at weigh-ins. I mean, I don't know, but we'll see. I mean, he should definitely win that one. But yeah, I'll hold off for now on him. I mean, honestly, I really like the Joe Pyfer Grant Dawson kind of account shove. I mean, I really don't see how both of those guys lose, and let's say that you have a strange feeling day of the fight, just put a little hedge on Abdul Razak Alhassan, just to kind of secure your winnings. Because I mean, if it's only like a two-legger or count shove, you
Yeah.
can kind of play it safe and.
People are probably gonna shove Pyfer when
Oh
it
yeah,
gets to that
yeah,
fight,
dude.
to make the odds even better for your edge.
Exactly.
There
I
is
think
one.
right now he's minus 450. I could easily see him being like minus 500 plus at the fight. Like people are just gonna, especially let's say that people lost throughout the lost money throughout the fight. That all of them are gonna, all the degens are gonna unite and just
Yeah.
push all their money on Joe Pyfer or Grant Dawson and those kind of things. So yeah, I've seen that line movement happen a lot, and I could definitely see it happening again. Yeah, as far as underdog plays, I mean Alex Morono, I'm pretty much on him. Like medium confidence. Um, I think that he's a solid underdog. Bill Algeo is also someone that I would potentially look to parlay, but maybe not too heavy because I do think there is some potential danger there. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I don't know if I trust too many other fighters. I really only trust like one, two, three, four, like 4 or 5 fights in this full fight card. I mean, all the rest of them don't know if I have a good feeling either way as far as like betting. So yeah, I mean that's probably gonna be my parlays. Grant Dawson, Joe Pyfer, just send it and collect 200, pass go and collect 200, and go about your day. So yeah, I mean that pretty much wraps it up for this fight card that we had. I think that it's gonna be a pretty solid comeback that we have, especially after the last fight card. I think there's gonna be some pretty solid people to trust with your potential money there. Before we wrap up and go off, do you guys have any other thoughts on the card or anything at all as far as UFC or MMA?
Not really.
For sure.
Might be smart to stick to like, you know, uh, you know, 4 or 5 man parlays max, um, instead of off like those 10 mans this card too. But yeah, that's just one of the thoughts that I had. It's kind of not that different from the last card in terms of like you don't really know who's gonna win, uh, aside from a face. So I don't know.
Cool. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Once again, Pure Picks .gg. Check out that website. Gonna have it up and running pretty soon. Yeah. Until yeah, throw up that sign. Until then, see you guys later.
Pure Picks Nation.
Let's go, Pure Pickers.
Good pick, baby.